This podcast is part of the Michigan Sports and Entertainment Podcast Network. Go to michigansportsandentertainment.com for more great podcasts.
You know who I can do without? I can do without the people in the video store.
Which ones?
All of them.
This is Massive Late Fee with Mike and Mark.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Massive Late Fee. My name is Mark. With me as always is my co-host Mike. How you doing, Mike?
Not too bad. How about you?
Good. We've been having a good week here. We've added a lot of new podcasts to our podcast network. I was going to go through the list of names, and I think I misplaced it. But we have a lot of good people. We have Decomposition, How Will I Die? Nicholas was on with us last week. We've got, I believe, coming out tomorrow from when we're taping this, which is Tuesday. The Skeptical Skeptic will be on the Skeptical Skeptics program talking about the JFK assassination, so check that out. It should have come out yesterday if you're listening to us in the future, which you are because we're not broadcasting live. So check out the Skeptical Skeptics. We'll be on there. We'll be posting links to that and everything. But the news today, so one of the big pieces of news, Mike, is that James Gunn is back with Guardians of the Galaxy. Something I know you care a lot about.
No, actually, I'm not a fan of these types of movies, as we've mentioned 1,000 times. Pretty happy though, because the fact that he was fired over like super old tweets that were just jokes to begin with was kind of ridiculous.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of had hoped he would just have been successful with like Suicide Squad 2 and then just refuse to come back just to be a dick. But I mean, you can only win so many battles.
Well, there's conspiracy theories abounding about this, that this decision was made almost immediately, basically. It was sort of
I'm sure it was, yeah, because why would you want anyone else to do those movies?
Right. It was kind of like a knee-jerk reaction, I suppose, to let him go. And I heard that Kevin Feige, who is the one that runs all the Marvel stuff there at Disney, was pissed off and did not want him to be fired to begin with. And they basically sort of made a deal with him that, we're going to wait a little bit of time until this dies down, and then we're going to announce that you're back. Someone didn't tell Dave Bautista, though, because he's been raging against this for a long time, which I've loved because, like you,
Yeah, good for him for being loyal.
Yeah, and I hate when people are fired over stuff like this. It doesn't matter what the politics, are, because, and obviously this wasn't necessarily about politics, but, I didn't like it with Roseanne. I didn't like it with James Gunn. I don't like it when it happens at all because I just think it's ridiculous. But good for him. I guess he's going to finish the second Suicide Squad movie, which is a reboot, so it's going to be completely new. And then they're holding production on Guardians of the Galaxy 3 to allow him to finish the movie he's writing and directing now, and then he's going to go into Guardians of the Galaxy 3. So good for James Gunn. I think he's an interesting filmmaker, and he's a humorous guy. So I'm glad that he's getting back in the swing of things. Speaking of Disney, there's a lot of Disney news today. Toy Story 4 just released a trailer. Did you see it, Mike?
Yeah, it's basically like a commercial for a bunch of different toys put out by a toy company.
Yeah, exactly. And they made a really good trilogy of movies. I mean, there are people that don't like it as much, but I enjoy Toy Story 1, Toy Story 2, and Toy Story 3. And they closed it out. They closed the book on the trilogy in a pretty satisfying way for fans of the series. I don't understand. Well, I mean, I understand because it's money. But just to come back for a fourth movie where it looks like you're rehashing pretty much all the plot points from your previous movies just to make money and sell toys. I mean, I know that's what they do, but I'm not super looking forward to this.
Yeah, my kids aren't really into these movies, so I don't have to endure them. But I mean, whatever. It's just another piece of shit movie that's just made to make money.
Speaking of making money, today, as I said, we record on Tuesday. Just a little inside tip for all you guys. We record on Tuesday, and then we release it on Wednesday for you Patreons on Patreon, all our good patrons get this early. So there's a tip for anyone that wants to throw us a buck. But today is the last day that 20th Century Fox will exist as a company. Because at 12:02 tomorrow, technically Wednesday, Disney will finalize their purchase of 20th Century Fox and bring over the X-Men and the Fantastic Four, Deadpool, all those aliens and stuff too. I guess they're going to keep the logo and use that in 20th Century Fox properties. Probably not the X-Men and the
Fantastic Four.
Yeah,
Yeah, that actually would be interesting to see like a decent movie made out of the Fantastic Four.
absolutely. Because there has never been one. The best one was probably the Roger Corman movie, which was made purely to keep the rights to the Fantastic Four and never intended to be seen by the public. But copies of it got out on YouTube and some other places. And Roger Corman, low budget filmmaker and everything, but he knows how to stretch a budget, I'll tell you that much, and make a pretty entertaining film. And that's probably the best Fantastic Four movie I've seen. So yeah, it'll be fun to see what Disney gets to do with that. The other story I want to talk about is Movie Pass is coming back. Now I know you probably didn't follow this story very much, Mike, but Movie Pass had slashed their prices to $9.95 a month, and for that you could see at least one movie a day, unlimitedly. Basically, like every month you paid, you could see 30 movies, and
Oh wow, that's pretty nuts.
and Movie Pass was paying full price for the movie tickets.
That's even more nuts.
They had not worked out any sort of discount or anything from the movie theater chains. So obviously a bunch of people signed up for it and they had enormous problems. They couldn't afford to buy tickets anymore. They were going bankrupt. They ended up having to limit the amount of movies you saw. They did a bunch of stuff and they still couldn't afford to keep up with this insane idea of theirs. So
I don't see how they could even do that. Why would you? That's such a terrible idea.
I don't know. I think it's one of those things where it's like lose money until all of a sudden you're so big that you're profitable. I think that was sort of their business plan. I don't understand.
No, because the more popular you are, the more money you lose.
Yeah, I know. I think that I think that it was a flawed business plan from the beginning. But what they're doing now is they're going back to they're back now, and they're re-releasing their unlimited pass. It's going to be, I think it was $149.
$600.
It was $149 for the year, or $14.95 for the month. And I think it's unrestricted, so you can see any movie that you want to. It's still once a day, but they have some other restrictions in place, and I think they've made some deals with movie theaters. Unfortunately for them, in the meantime, AMC came up with their own thing, which is a lot better apparently from the reviews that I've heard. I don't have any of these movie passes, but in the movie pass one, you can only see movies in 2D, and the AMC one lets you see it in 3D or IMAX or basically whatever format that you want. It does restrict you on, you can only use it 3 times a week for the month, so up to 12 times. But it's a much better put together plan, and one that's obviously sustainable. And I don't know how many people are going to come back to Movie Pass, seeing as thousands of people went to the theater to go see this movie that they supposedly could see, and they were told that, oh no, we're not honoring this anymore. And it was a real black eye to the company. So I don't know that they're going to be able to recover from that.
Yeah, I don't know.
I'll tell you that it's a perfect capitalism story, though, because AMC built a good business plan and did things smartly, and MoviePass did not, and they failed. So, that's the market working the way it's supposed to work.
I still can't comprehend why you would do it without making any deals in the first place.
I don't know. It was unfathomable to me. But once they announced that they were doing this, that they had slashed, because I think at first it was something like 20 some dollars or something like that. And how they get, the way they get away with it, or the way they wanted to try to get away with it, is by the rationale, well, everyone's not going to see a movie a day. They might use it 2 or 3 or 4 times a month tops, and they were figuring, this will cover that. But what happened is that thousands of people subscribed when they slashed their prices from like 20 some dollars a month to $9.95, and at that price point they just couldn't. It wasn't sustainable. So it was just a horrible plan. But if
You
you're
could lose money going to the dollar show every day. I
Yeah.
mean, if it's $10 a day, wow.
yeah,
I just can't comprehend.
it was just very bad planning on their part. But we will move on to what we're watching this week.
Actually,
Yeah.
if
Oh,
I
you got
may
something?
interject,
Yeah.
I do have some sad news. This happened a few days ago and was very much underreported by the media. The king of surf guitar, Dick Dale, passed away.
Oh, I did see a little thing about that. Yeah.
And while there have been many self-appointed kings, like the king of pop, the king of media, I don't think anyone would question that Dick Dale was the greatest surf guitar innovator of all time.
Absolutely.
He was actually mentioned way back in the 60s, maybe early 70s by Jimi Hendrix. There's a line in A Third Stone from the Sun saying, "You'll never hear surf music again," which many people believe is a reference to Dick Dale, who had, I think he had prostate cancer at the time.
Yeah.
I could be wrong in that. But he remarkably recovered. And yeah, sadly, the other day, you might know him from songs such as Miserlou off the Pulp Fiction soundtrack, like one of the most perfect, melding of film and music. He has a lot of great songs. If you really look into his catalog, if you like surf music, you know who he is already. But yes, sadly, Dick Dale has passed away.
Yeah, that's lost another one, which always sucks. But yeah, that Pulp Fiction, that's probably what he's most known for. Even people that don't know his name would absolutely recognize that Pulp Fiction, riff. And like you
A
said,
true artist. He was still touring. My wife was going to buy me tickets a few years ago. I didn't go. Obviously, I'm regretting that in the past few days. But yeah, just a great artist. He actually moved here as a young man from Lebanon, and he basically played surf music to try and recreate the sound of the waves when you were surfing. It's kind of funny because some people, like the Beach Boys, are pretty famous for actually not being surfers instead of being initially associated with the surf music genre. But yeah, Dick Dale never was the phony type, I guess.
yeah, exactly. So that is definitely sad news. But on to happier news. What we're watching this week. Mike, have you been watching anything in particular this week? Hot ones?
Yep, Hot Ones with Shaquille O'Neal is a great episode, half an hour long. Some funny stuff, interesting interview questions. You learn a lot about Shaquille O'Neal and that actually, like how he spent his first big check was pretty astounding.
Yeah, I watched that one too.
I did not watch the second episode of American Gods, which I meant to, but I was going to watch it yesterday, but I fell asleep at 9:00. So I didn't. The kids go to bed like 8:30, and I was out like a light. Not anything else I really watched out of the ordinary. A lot more Frankenstein's Lab, some reaction videos. I actually saw the Avengers reaction video from them, so now I've seen the Avengers, whatever, I don't know, part 2, Thanos, I don't know, Electric Boogaloo, that one. Endgame, I think it's called.
Yeah, I saw you watching, or I saw you live tweeting some of the the Avengers movie.
Oh yeah, I got pretty drunk over the weekend, and I remember I was telling you that I would watch it at one point. So I'm like, yeah, why not?
That was pretty entertaining to see that.
You're not referring to the movie, obviously, because it was a piece of shit.
Yeah, anyone wants a good laugh, go to late_Mike on Twitter at late_Mike and see some of his live tweets. They are hilarious. But let me ask you.
At some point, while drinking, I'll do the second part. There's still like an hour and a half left in this movie. How long is this thing?
Oh yeah,
is it 2.5 hours? It's a long movie.
It is. I think it's about 2:10. Yeah. But
Too much is what I'd say.
let me ask you a question about the Shaquille O'Neal hot ones. Now, at the end, he did not eat the last wing, and he didn't get put on the wall of shame, and he made the guy eat that.
Sean.
Yeah, he made Sean eat, that Shaq sauce wing, which was a mixture of all the sauces. And in the comments, a bunch of people were saying, "Oh, it's classless, it's terrible, all that stuff." What was your take on that?
I thought it was fine. I don't understand. Did he think that adding all the sauces would make it hotter? It would be no hotter than the hottest sauce, which
Right.
Sean easily, ate. I mean, it was funny because his only comment was like, "Oh, it's just disgusting." I mean, obviously, you have a lot of vinegary sauces and that kind of stuff. But it was a really fun episode. I don't know why anyone would be that upset. Anyone who's at home trekking, who's on the Hot Ones Hall of Fame and Hall of Shame, I don't really think you have much input that I would be interested in.
Yeah, I agree. And I think anyone that knows Shaq, and I would agree that sometimes Shaq can be a little prickly to say the least. But
Like when he asked him the Kobe Bryant question.
yeah. But anybody that has seen him or knows anything about him knows that he's into like pranks and practical jokes. They mentioned it in the episode. And I think he thought he was just having some fun with Sean. I don't think he really meant any offense or like he was trying to.
No, I don't think he did it. He seemed like a really fun, guy. He was a really good guest on the show. Speaking of the prank, it was rather disturbing. He mentioned that Charles Barkley never wears underwear,
Yeah. I know I
and
can't.
so he just like he put all sorts of like weird like Vaseline and stuff on the inside of his pants or something. It was very odd.
Yeah, I can't unhear that now too. So every time I see Charles Barkley on the NBA or something like that,
Yeah.
I'm gonna think about how he's not wearing underwear.
Another thing that he actually confirmed was there was this book I read a long time ago. It was called like Road Dogs or something like that. It was like anecdotes from stand-up comedians. One of the anecdotes was from Carlos Mencia, which at the time I'm like, I don't know, is this true or not? Because he's obviously has a reputation for kind of just making things up and stealing jokes and that sort of thing.
Yep.
But in it, Carlos Mencia was at, I think it was the Laugh Factory, who is the comedy store, one of the bigger comedy clubs in LA, one of them. And he was just like insulting Dr. Dre, and then Dr. Dre and his entourage were like actually like threatening physical violence. And then according to the story, Shaq actually spoke up and said, you've been, he basically stood up for him, and Shaq verified that was a true story, which I was surprised to hear.
Yep. Yeah, that was an interesting. It's a very good episode. Anyone that doesn't watch Hot Ones or hasn't seen this episode should go to YouTube and check it out. It's a really good
Yeah, it's
episode.
a great introduction to the series too. I mean, I'm yet to see a bad episode because, as I said before, if you like the person, it's fun to see. He asks amazing questions. Like his research is top notch.
Absolutely.
Like you won't really see that kind of research, and since it's more of a relaxed environment and you can use profanity and stuff, I feel that's more of like an authentic interview than the average, Jimmy Fallon or whatever you're watching.
God, yes.
But I mean, at the same time, I mean, like if you don't like the guest, like I'm not a big fan of Seth Meyers, so I mean, it was fun watching him like being horrible, torturous pain the entire time. Speaking of bad interviewing shows, Seth Meyers,
Yeah.
and it was just kind of entertaining, like Seth Meyers, take that.
Yeah, the thing is, like with the late night shows, every once in a while, and sometimes David Letterman would even get into the, "Oh, how you doing? How's your movie?" kind of thing, where you could tell he was just taking a night off. But David Letterman was really the only one that asked provocative interviews, like interview questions that had provocative interviews, where
I would argue too that Conan O'Brien has I really like his form of interview because he obviously puts a lot of like fun into it, and I mean he allows people like Norm Macdonald to just like be like the ultimate interview guest.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Conan's style's a little different. And it's a little more like kind of wacky and fun and things like that. But Conan has good chemistry and good rapport with the people he talks to, almost kind of like Johnny Carson. Like Johnny Carson,
He's a comedy writer, so I mean I don't know. Was Johnny Carson a stand-up at some point? I thought I heard he was. I'm not really sure of that.
he was sort of I guess, kind of a stand-up. He started out as a game show host too. But
That kind of makes sense.
I would consider him more of like a vaudeville type performer. Like his idol,
Like a Bob Hope. I mean, I guess Bob Hope is a stand-up.
yeah, his idol was Jack Benny. So Jack Benny actually started out in vaudeville, and then did his radio program and did his kind of variety type show. Sort of.
I think
Yeah, go ahead.
I think you seamlessly tied that into something later in the show.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. But yeah, he so that was kind of his thing, and that was sort of how he ran his stuff, and I think Conan O'Brien has a little bit of that in him. But one of the good things about Johnny Carson and a good thing about Conan O'Brien is the ability to sort of create chemistry instantly with a lot of these people that, I'm sure Conan O'Brien has relationships with certain celebrities, but I'm sure that there are some that come on to promote movies that he's never even met before. But
Oh yeah, that's obvious for sometimes.
yeah, but he's pretty good at creating chemistry with people even upon first meeting, and I think that's part of what he does so well. But yeah, like the Fallons and the Seth Meyers and all those other like Jay Leno and stuff, they were just not good interviewers, not intriguing, not funny.
There's nothing spontaneous. Like I feel that if he put Adolf Hitler in front of Jimmy Fallon, he would ask him questions about his dog.
Yeah, I think you're right.
So I hear you got a German Shepherd here, huh?
So you used to paint, huh? Well, we're gonna play a game. We're gonna play a game, Hitler. It's Pictionary.
Oh my god, I want to see this though. Actually,
Yeah, someone should make that sketch.
we're gonna play this. We're gonna play a game, True Confessions. Ooh,
Yeah, that's just Hitler's true confession. Oh, choose envelope number 2. Okay, one time I killed over 6 million Jews.
I did not invade the Sudetenland.
Okay, what year was this? Oh, God.
What were you doing? I was yelling a lot. Ooh.
I was looking for Norm Macdonald. I wanted to
Speaking
mesmerize
of, Johnny
him.
Carson.
Yeah, I wanted to mesmerize him with my eyes.
Oh, good stuff.
Oh, man. Well, so, as Mike sort of alluded to, our main topic today is going to be a sketch comedy show. So, for educating Mike, I wanted to find a sort of sketch comedy movie that we could talk about. And I found one. One of the worst ones I've ever seen in my life. It's called Movie 43. Have you ever heard of this one, Mike?
I have not.
So it's in what they call an anthology comedy, where it's basically just short skits all tied together with a very bad overarching story. But it stars a lot of celebrity. I mean, it's crazy the amount of people that they got in this. Elizabeth Banks, Kristen Bell, Holly Berry, Kate Bosworth, Gerard Butler, Josh Duhamel.
Every one of them hilarious.
Yeah, Anna Faris, Richard Gere's in here, Hugh Jackman, Johnny Knoxville, Justin Long, Seth MacFarlane, Stephen Merchant, Chloe Grace Moretz, Chris Pratt, Liev Schreiber is in it, Sean William Scott, Emma Stone, Jason Sudeikis, Uma Thurman, Naomi Watts, Kate Winslet. It's crazy the amount of people that they were able to get in this. Now, Peter Farrelly, who just won an Oscar, by the way.
He did?
Yeah, for Green Book, was one of the directors and one of the producers of this film. And this has got to be...
Wait. Fairly?
Yeah.
Oh, I thought you said Farrelly.
No.
I was saying, is that the guy who was dating or married to Jenny Garth at one point?
Oh, no. Yeah. Peter Farrelly.
Oh, okay.
One of the Farrelly brothers. But anyway, so Richard Roper called this the Citizen Kane of awful. And apparently it won 3 awards at the Golden Raspberry Awards, including Worst Picture. Absolutely deserved. Now, there's like 17 stories. I'm not going to go through them all because it would be tedious and not funny. But I'll give you a few and kind of the highlights of them. But the first one is called The Catch, and it stars Kate Winslet and Hugh Jackman. And Kate Winslet plays this girl that goes on a blind date with a guy named Davis, played by Hugh Jackman, who's the city's most eligible bachelor. They go to a restaurant. He takes off his scarf, revealing that he has a pair of testicles dangling from his neck. And that's the joke. And that's the entire joke.
If it doesn't work for Rob Schneider and Deuce Bigelow 2, it won't work for Hugh Jackman.
Exactly. The next one is called Homeschooled. This one was somewhat funny if you have a really sick sense of humor. But these two neighbors come over to have coffee with, they just moved in and they come in to have coffee with their new neighbors named Robert and Samantha and their teenage son. Now, Liev Schreiber plays the dad and Naomi Watts plays the mom. And they're saying how they homeschool their son Kevin, and he's a teenager now, and so they're asking about how is it hard for him to socialize and everything, and they basically say that we make it as authentic a homeschooling experience as possible, where we try to simulate what real high school is like, and so then there's like clips of them like bullying him, pushing him down, hazing him, like all this kind of stuff that, happens in quote unquote real high school. They throw parties where they don't invite him. They like kick him out of the house and he's just outside the window staring in at them, having a party like they're acting like teenagers. Samantha, his mom, Naomi Watts, gives him his first kiss. And his dad reveals that he has romantic feelings for him. All to simulate what real high school is like. Because, Mike, you remember all those times in high school when guys told you that they wanted to have sex with you.
Yes.
So, the neighbors are obviously disturbed about this. But Kevin seems to be like a completely normal kid and everything. So, they think, maybe this is okay. The punctuation of the joke at the end is that he's going out on a date with his girlfriend, and his girlfriend is a mop with a picture of his mom's face on it. So he's quite disturbed. So okay. Yeah, not great.
Not even good.
The other one with Anna Faris and Chris Pratt is Chris Pratt's going to propose to Anna Faris. They were actually married, I believe, either engaged or married at the time that this...
He should have proposed. They did a different movie.
Right. But he's going to propose to her, and she wants him to poop on her. And that's the whole joke. That, he eats a bunch of food, takes some laxatives. Eventually he gets hit by a car, and shit rains down everywhere, including covering her. And she says it's the most beautiful thing in the world and accepts his marriage proposal. Terrible. Terrible.
I don't understand. Was there blackmail involved? I don't understand why anyone would think this is a funny movie.
I don't know. And I don't know why I don't know why any of them agreed to do this.
I mean, from what you listed, I didn't hear many people who are like comedians or anything, but I mean, I don't understand why you would think any of this is funny. I just don't get it.
Let me find one with some comedians. Let's see. It's hard. Okay, the one with Johnny Knoxville. So, Johnny Knoxville and Gerard Butler and Sean William Scott. That's who's in this one. So, Pete, who's played by Johnny Knoxville, captures a leprechaun for his roommates, Sean William Scott, as a birthday present. The leprechaun is Gerard Butler, basically his face superimposed on what looks like a garden gnome almost. And they demand a pot of gold. The leprechaun swears a lot, threatens that his brother's coming, and when his brother gets there, they shoot Brian and Pete, but they ultimately kill both the leprechauns. And at the end of the segment, Pete reveals he's also caught a fairy who performs fellatio for gold coins.
Okay.
Yep. These are the premises that we got. in this movie. I mean, I'm not even going to go through any of the other ones because it's terrible. But after hearing all that, I decided that it would be fun to look up some positive reviews, 10 out of 10 reviews on IMDb. And I found a pretty good one from Kill Me Sideways. 10 out of 10. It was great. Obviously, this movie isn't for a 40-year-old, so it's still for us for a couple years, I guess. Obviously, it isn't for a child, and it obviously isn't for someone who thinks they're too good for silly humor. So I'm hearing a lot of people it's not for. There are some stupid shows on TV that make me want to shoot myself, and I can say that this movie was way better than that. So
It's better than wanting to shoot yourself.
yeah, it's better
Put that on a poster.
It's better than committing suicide.
I don't even see how that's silly humor. This episode's very confusing to me in a lot of ways.
It's
First
just
of all, movie pass thing, which I don't understand.
it's just gross, terrible humor. Here's another 10 out of 10. So funny. I laughed so hard I spotted.
Ooh, that's not good.
So apparently, she laughed so hard she almost had a miscarriage,
Or maybe she did.
which is great. If you thought the drunk chick sneezing and shitting all over the bathtub in Hall Pass was funny, if the Franken beans and There's Something About Mary made you cringe, if Stifler drinking beer with spunk in it and American Pie made you gag, or Austin Powers' cup of nutty coffee made you quit drinking Joe, then this movie is definitely for you. A-list stars doing nasty stuff. Amazing how they got away with it. Amazing how anyone gave them any money to do this.
And I mean, they must have owed this person a favor. I really don't know why you would be in this movie on purpose if you could avoid.
I've seen it. It's horrible. Shooting yourself might be better. It's one of the worst pieces of shit I've ever seen in my life.
It sounds very bad.
On the Parents Guide on IMDb, there's a special note under sex and nudity saying all things mentioned, including the sexual abuse, child abuse, bestiality, and incest, are meant to be comedic.
It's just silly humor. You don't like silly humor?
Right? The sexual abuse, child abuse, bestiality, and incest are meant to be comedic. I love the sarcasm. Like it's like even the Parents Guide is throwing shade at this movie. That's meant to be comedic. It's not, but it's meant to be.
They're explaining that it's supposed to be a comedy. That's good.
Oh God. An adult woman dresses as a sexy teenager shown dancing in a near sexual manner. That's Naomi.
Near sexual?
Yeah, that's Naomi Watts. I think she's grinding, basically.
It's nearly sexual, I guess. I guess that's fair.
Oh, God.
No wonder why Liev Schreiber went on to do Ray Donovan. It was a step up. Mm-hmm. Actually, I've heard good things about that show. It just sounds so.
Profanity, about 55 F words, and its derivatives. One-mouthed.
What? Are they a lip reader?
Yes.
Even the deaf hate this movie.
Frightening and intense scenes. Violence is shown, but is cartoony and meant to be comical.
They just changed the movie title to "Meant to be Comical."
Yeah. Graphic toilet humor is shown, discussed, and depicted throughout, with what could be sickening to audiences. The whole movie. I want to put these quotes on the poster of the film. Could be sickening to audiences.
Meant to be comical.
Oh, God.
The makers of this piece of shit. And fuck, why not?
Oh, my God. So that is movie 43. Our main topic. Well, wait. Before we get into the main topic, we've got a couple things that we need to do. One, as I mentioned, we have a lot of new podcasts on the network. One of them is the Brew Crime podcast, which, and I'm using my low podcaster voice now because I'm about to talk about a true crime podcast. They drink a craft beer and they talk about a true crime story. And they laugh along with it mostly. It's actually one of the true crime shows that I think is pretty good. So, here's a little ad from Brew Crime.
This is Brew Crime, a craft beer and true crime podcast.
I'm Mike.
I'm Beck.
And I'm Nina.
And we're your hosts.
We pair a true crime story with a craft beer.
That Nina will probably hate.
Yeah, probably.
Whatever. You can find our show on all your favorite podcast apps, and if you can't find it, contact us and we'll try and change that.
We can be found at brewcrime.com or on Twitter at brewcrime, on Facebook at brewcrime, or if you want to go to our group, it's group/brewcrime on Facebook, or on Instagram at Pacific Beer Chat.
Join us as we discuss the horrible crimes that surround us and try not to giggle.
So that is the Brew Crime podcast. We will link them below and go check them out. And then also, real quick, we have an interview. I know you've been loving these interviews, everybody. We have an interview with a very talented actor named Mike Provenzano. So take it away, Mark. Well, welcome back, everybody. We've got another special guest here. I know you guys have been enjoying these interviews that we've been doing. We have with us a special guest, Mike Provenzano, who is an actor and a voice actor and a commercial actor. He is from the world of business, kind of up and coming in the acting world. How are you doing, Mike? Nice to talk to you.
I'm doing great, Mark. Thank you.
Now, I know that you started out in the business world, early in your life, and you've been making the transition to acting. What inspired you to start to pursue this?
Well, it was something I wanted to do when I was younger, but I don't think I was even close to being prepared to try it. I don't think I had the what's the term? I wasn't there. Mentally, I don't think I could have done it. And about 5 years ago or 4 years ago, I was working with a friend of mine in the construction business. And long story short, he had purchased a design firm, and one of the guys that came with the company is an acting instructor. So I was only there helping him out with a project, and when I was leaving, the guy said, "Hey, you should check out this school." And I remember saying, "Are you blowing smoke up my ass?" And he goes, No, for real." So I went and checked it out, and went to an open call with about 60 people. And the director at the end of the open call said, "We're going to invite 4 of you to our school." And I'm like, "Oh, wow." And I was one of the 4 that got invited to the school. So I took the class. I got picked up by an agent in the Philadelphia market literally as soon as I graduated the class and kind of started. So it was kind of, if he wouldn't have said something, I don't know that I'd be here today.
Interesting. So he'll get, when you win an Oscar, I'm sure he'll get thanked in the acceptance
Absolutely.
speech.
I'll be like, who am I forgetting? Stop the music.
So I know that you've done a lot of commercial work. You've done some films. You're starting to do some voiceover work. Of those, which do you think is the most enjoyable to you?
I enjoy it all. I also do some, excuse me, I also do some modeling. And, I did a commercial last year for Land Rover, their Land Rover Experience. And they basically flew me down to North Carolina to their experience center. We stayed at the Biltmore, and we're basically off-road driving for 2 days.
Okay.
Cool. Really fun experience. It was a huge, production, and it turned out really, really nice. But it was, I had a blast with it, and So for me, I enjoy, doing each one of these. I really am humbled to the fact that and honored that people want to use me for a project, and I've kind of always have felt that way since day one. And from my first short film that I was able to do when I first got into this to where I'm at now, and trying to continue to grow my craft and my resume. I've got a pretty decent resume for the short time I've been doing it, but I just enjoy helping others bring their concept to life.
Okay, so that was Mike Provenzano, and now on to the main topic. We have been talking, or last time before Captain Marvel interrupted it, we talked about Saturday Night Live. Now we're going to move on to another sketch comedy show. One I think is probably a better success rate than Saturday Night Live. Wouldn't you say so, Mike?
By a lot, yeah.
It is the Canadian sketch comedy show, The Kids in the Hall. One of my favorites. For those of you that don't know, The Kids in the Hall started in Canada. Lauren Michaels also had a hand in producing this show and sort of helping them into American audiences. Their show used to be on the CBC, and then CBS used to show it late at night. I know it was on Comedy Central. At some point, it was also on HBO. One of the best theme songs to a show that I've ever heard. I like it a lot anyway. It's an instrumental called Having an Average Weekend by a Canadian band called Shadowy Men on a Shadowy Planet. But I like bass lines a lot, so I like this theme song a lot. Mike, when did you first become aware of The Kids in the Hall?
I think it was actually on the CBC. Like, I caught like snippets of it, and it was just such a bizarre show. I just was compelled to keep watching.
Yeah, I saw it on the CBC as well in the early 90s. And we kind of had an advantage here in Michigan because our local broadcast carried the CBC from Windsor, from Canada. And so we got the CBC in Michigan for most of my childhood. And I watched some shows on CBC growing up, and this was one that I happened to catch. One of the things, I guess I'll reveal a little too much about myself, but if we're talking like 92, 93-ish, I'm like 13, 14 years old around this time. So the standards and practices are different in Canada. And one of the reasons that I would turn on CBC sometimes is because sometimes after around 10 o'clock at night or so, they would show movies that had nudity in it.
Yep, that's 100% true. That's and if you ever wondered whether or not Canadian women had big hairy bushes, they do.
Absolutely. At least in the mid-90s they did. Oh, but so I would, I liked the CBC for several different reasons, but I happened to discover this show on it as well. And like you, Mike and I have similar senses of humor, I would say. And I was just kind of fascinated by. I didn't really grow up with Monty Python. That was a little before my time, and I guess that might be sort of the closest parallel that I can give. It's their humor sensibility is different than Monty Python, but they do a lot of drag. They do a lot of surreal kind of stuff like Monty Python did. They just sort of have. They have different senses of humor than the guys in Monty Python, but I guess it was the Monty Python for our generation. It was just hilarious, and they had a lot of good reoccurring stuff on there, like the yeah. Go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
I was just gonna say the 30 Helens agree. That was one of the funny ones.
I just wanted to say we should for sure introduce who they were. They were a sketch comedy group out of Toronto with, this is in no particular order, Bruce McCullough, Scott Thompson, Mark McKinney, Dave Foley, and Kevin McDonald.
Yep. Did you have a favorite of the performers?
See, I kind of go between Bruce, Kevin, and sometimes even Dave Foley. Scott Thompson, I really like his Buddy Cole character, but I mean, he seems to be pretty generic beyond that.
Mm-hmm.
And Mark McKinney, I'm just not a big fan of. I mean, I don't think any of them are bad. Just my least favorite is how I describe.
Yeah, they're all good for sure, and they're all funny in their own way. I don't know exactly how the writing is broken down. I know they all wrote for the sketch comedy troupe. They all contributed to different sketches. As you get to know their humor, you can kind of see different ones that did, like, you can really tell a Scott Thompson sketch from a lot of the other ones. But Bruce is probably my favorite. I like Kevin a lot too. I like Dave, but
I think Dave definitely has a lot of more surreal humor. Like, for example, his one sketch where he's a defendant in a criminal case, and every juror is an ex-girlfriend of his.
Yes.
Just why?
Yeah, that's a great sketch.
The girly drink drunk is another one of his. Again, is just completely surreal.
Yeah, that one's really good too. One of the other court ones that I like a lot is Dave Foley plays the lawyer and Kevin McDonald is the defendant, and he says that he's on trial for cannibalism and he's telling this harrowing story about how he didn't know if he was going to live or die and everything. It was around the time that the movie Alive came out, where the rugby, I think it was rugby team or soccer team, crashed in the Andes Mountains.
Yeah, one of the two.
And the survivors had to eat the other survivors to live. I actually saw that movie, so I got what they were talking about when the sketch came out. And Dave Foley says, "But sir, you weren't the survivor of a plane crash. You were the sole survivor of a 30-minute delay."
Yeah, they have a lot of great court sketches. I thought you were going to mention this other one where a guy was on trial and he goes, "How do you plead?" And he goes, "Innocent." And so he's like, "Well, you're free to go."
Yeah.
And I can't remember if it was Bruce or Dave who was the judge. I think it was Dave though. And he just kept ripping into the defender or the prosecutor for bringing all these innocent people up. He's like, "Did you even ask them?" And I'm like, yeah. What'd they say? Well, they said they were innocent.
Oh my god. Oh,
of course, he has the polite or friendly axe murderer was another one of Dave's.
Yep. Yeah, that was another one of Dave and reoccurring characters where he would go, he'd ask people for favors, like he would have just killed somebody because he's covered in blood. He's got this axe, but he would come and ask for a favor, like he would need, to sharpen his axe or, borrow some towels or something like that. And he makes this polite small talk with people. And then, and then at the end, he'd always say, "Oh, and don't tell anyone, I was here," or "Chop, chop." Paul Bellini. Speaking of the surreal type stuff, all the Paul Bellini sketches were pretty out there.
Yeah, Paul Bellini was one of the writers for the show, and just basically he would just appear wearing only a towel.
Yeah.
At one point, they even had a touch Bellini contest where the winner would get to touch Paul Bellini with a stick.
Yep. Oh yeah, and that was they did a lot of interesting and innovative stuff. One of the things that I think is really interesting about this show is how innovative they were with their comedy. And they would do things that no one else would do. Obviously they took a lot more chances than a show like Saturday Night Live ever would. I think it was, when you come from Canada or different foreign countries, I think that the people that, I don't know, this is the impression that I get. I think that the people that run the studios are less concerned with ratings so much, or at least less concerned with turning people off. They kind of just take or at least they used to just take the approach of, well, let's try this and see if it works. Maybe
I think since it's like the Canadian Broadcasting Company, they probably were able to take more risk as well because, like you said, ratings probably weren't as important.
yeah, and I think that's a big factor in why they were able to kind of do the things that they did, and they got a pretty big cult following, I would say, based on this show. And obviously lots of them have worked. We've talked before about how Mark McKinney is in Superstore now. Scott Thompson, I know, does some stuff with comic books and some other things. Dave Foley has been pretty successful. Bruce McCullough does a lot of stuff behind the camera now. And I was just
I
gonna
think
say,
it helps a lot too that they were all writers slash performers, whereas on like a show like SNL, sometimes we get people who are just good at performing but have no like sensibility of the material or no connection to it.
Yep.
I mean, they're all very talented performers and presumably talented writers as well. I mean, plus the fact that there's only 5 people, and I'm sure there's other writers as well. It's not just them, but the fact there's such a small cast, it almost forces them to be creative in a lot of ways. I mean, a lot of the sketches would just feature the cast members. I mean, you could, if you have more than 5 people, sure, you'll need another person. But even then, sometimes they would just have themselves playing different characters in the same sketch.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And I agree. And then that's part of why it reminds me of Monty Python a little bit. And I'm not a huge Monty Python fan. I think there's some stuff that makes me kind of chuckle when I've seen it in reruns. But so, if you're not a huge fan of Monty Python, don't, and you haven't seen The Kids in the Hall yet, don't let that put that off to you. But it reminds me of that in that way where they all also wrote and performed their own sketches. And I think, like you said, I think it gives them a closeness to the material that really shines through. Because they know, as the writers, they know exactly how they want it to play and what they're trying to do. And I think it makes a difference.
You can even. I'm not a fan of Monty Python myself. I don't think I've really seen more than like one sketch, and I've seen a couple of the movies, which didn't make me laugh one time. Mm-hmm. But I think like you could tell at certain points on Kids in the Hall that they probably just came up with a sketch like the day before, like the one where Bruce gives like an impassioned speech about how he's sorry for causing cancer. Yeah. I mean, they probably just did that, right before then, or Dave gives a commentary, a monologue about how comfortable he is with menstruation. Mm-hmm. Again, they didn't have an elaborate set or anything, but I mean, the characters, the people on the show are just great performers in general. Yeah. I mean, I don't know, I mean, I guess a certain age group wouldn't have, but there's a timeless comedy called News Radio with Dave Foley, and he's just brilliant. He's great every episode. He's always hilarious. He has a perfect tone. According to Joe Rogan on the Joe Rogan podcast, he said Dave actually would rewrite a lot of the sketches to help make them work. He's like the unknown or uncredited producer / writer on the show. Okay. I mean, Dave is I don't know why he's not like the biggest TV star ever. He's just hilarious. He's funny. I mean, he's humorous. He's good at cracking jokes.
Other synonyms for funny.
Yeah. He's a great performer. He's a great writer. He has a podcast now, which I haven't caught yet, but he was on the Joe Rogan show a couple of weeks ago, promoting it. But I am a huge Dave Foley fan. I'll give anything he's in a try.
Yep, I agree. And Dave definitely is one of the ones that I've followed his career, and I think he's probably been, I would say, the most successful, at least in front of the camera, of the 5 of them.
Well, I mean, you might argue that Mark is now, since he's on that. Isn't he like I think Dave was the lead character on News Radio. He had to have been. Yeah. But isn't Mark on that Superstore? And that's been on for a while, hasn't it?
I think they're going to season 3 or season 4, yeah. Okay,
I guess not that one. But I mean, it seems to be like more successful or higher rated than News Radio, because News Radio was never a highly rated show, unfortunately.
Yeah, I loved it, though. That's one that I would watch all the time. And Phil Hartman and Dave Foley on that show were just, I mean, it was the most brilliant pairing ever, having those two.
There's not a bad performer. Andy Dick is great on there as well. Yep. Myra Tierney, I can't remember. Everyone on the show is just.
Yeah.
And of course, the the perfect episode relating to this podcast was the one where Dave Foley revealed himself to be a competitive knife thrower
Yes.
named the Great Throat Edie.
Yep. Oh, but yeah, that was if you haven't seen News Radio, check out old episodes of News Radio. Absolutely hilarious show.
Stephen Root is great on it as well. He plays
Yep.
the boss, eccentric billionaire J. Jonah Jameson.
Yep.
Wait, is it? That's not right. It's very similar to Jonah Jameson. It's like Jimmy John or Jimmy
Yeah.
Johns. I can't remember.
Jimmy
the name.
John Jameson, I think is what it
There
is.
that's it. Yeah, that's all right.
It's clearly a play on J. Jonah Jameson.
Oh yeah, for sure.
But do you now let's see. So this show lasted for 5 seasons. You can still find it out there, obviously. But what do you think is your favorite sketch?
That is very difficult because there are so many just brilliant sketches. I mean, anytime Scott Thompson plays Buddy Cole, it's hilarious,
Yeah.
and he even makes cameos in other sketches at certain points. One of my favorite ones was where I think it's Kevin McDonald's like giving an impassioned speech about. No, he was trying to, like, these kids wanted to buy beer. I may have the wrong actor, but he's going on and on about like, oh, I don't know, I should do this because I want them to think I'm cool, but I'm a more. And then in the background, you see Bruce has already bought them beer, and he's just so nonchalant about it.
Yep.
One of the first ones I saw that I really loved was the one where they're in the restaurant arguing over what movie they had seen the night before.
Yes.
Those are a great pairing, Kevin McDonald and Dave Foley. I mean, there's different pairings of the actors are just really different. There's some sketches I never really cared for the chicken lady sketch.
Yeah.
It never was really my.
Well, that's a Mark McKinney one too. So
Yeah, well, I mean, just that one in particular, I didn't really care for. But I mean, there were just like some like just completely brilliant, like ridiculous sketches. Like he's hip, he's cool, he's 45. It's like about the cool dad again, played by Bruce McCullough.
Yep.
Like you mentioned earlier, 40 Helens agree was just 39 Helens agree that punctuality is important.
And then the last one strolls in.
Yeah, it's a fat girl. That was a favorite as well of mine.
Mm-hmm.
We just had like crazy facts. Like the one was that rocks can bleed. You just have to throw them hard enough, and she throws it.
Yeah, some of my favorite, like one of the ones that I didn't really like, that was another reoccurring one that seems to be popular, is the head crusher one.
Yeah, I'm not a fan. Again, that's a Mark McKinney one. Maybe if I had seen that one time, it would have been okay, but I don't know if it was like their first popular type character or what, but he was in there way more than I would.
Yeah. And it did become a popular sketch, and I, and for those of you that don't know, basically it was a forced perspective gag where Mark McKinney would sit, I think his name was Mr. Tislick or something like that, something weird like that. But he would sit in a chair and he'd put his thumb and forefinger apart and, get somebody's head in his crosshairs that was, like 30 feet away or whatever. So it would look like he was crushing their heads. And it just, it was somewhat funny sometimes, but it was one of those that didn't, it's like the chicken lady. And, I don't mean to crap all over Mark McKinney, because I don't hate Mark McKinney. I think he's a good performer and everything. But I just I didn't really love it.
Did Mark McKinney play the cab driver?
Oh, I think.
Or was that Scott Thompson? I thought it was Mark McKinney.
I think it is Mark, yeah.
Yeah, that was
yeah, it is. Yeah.
And he also played the vampire in the subway, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes. Yeah, so he definitely had some good sketches.
Yeah, he was just like those in particular. I would single out as not being my favorite. Another fun one, a reoccurring one, is Hecubus and Simon.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Where, it was almost like a precursor to Goth Talk on SNL. I don't know if there's any crossover, because I think Mark McKinney was on SNL at the time. I don't know if he might have written that sketch or what, but it's not too different, I wouldn't say.
Yeah.
Whereas Simon, I forget the name, Simon something or other is like the darkest one, but he just has the least evil things that he mentions. It's just, it's just underwhelming you with his evilness.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember that one. Another one that I'll never forget, and this was another Dave Foley one. They, I'm trying. What was the word though? He's like, he was using. He gets called in to work by his boss on. I think they're on a construction site, and he keeps using this word
Well, I
over.
think I know what you're talking. I might know what you're talking about, but it might be a different performer actually. Is it when Bruce McCullough was playing like the he was like, how old are you, kid? He's like, yeah, 28.
No,
When he
no,
was it compensation? Okay, I thought you were talking about the compensation.
no. I don't think it's that one. I think it's he keeps using a word over and over again, and the boss is basically like, "Look, people are really sick of you saying this word all the time," and I can't remember what word it was.
It's not that one then.
But he's basically like, people are threatening to quit because you keep saying it's like precipiosity or something, like one of those long words that people don't use in normal life. And actually, I think it is Bruce though. I think it is. I can't remember if it was Bruce or Dave that played the guy that was doing it. And he's like, you can't use it anymore. He's like, basically, no use of this word anymore. And he goes, okay. And he's like, well, I'm glad that we were able to get together and delineate this problem. And you just see him like look up and he's like, delineate. And he's like, I promise I'll never use that other word ever again. But you can just tell that he's going to say delineate now at every opportunity. So that one, like, that's one of the first ones that I saw, and I, that's one that always kind of sticks in my head too.
Yeah, the first one I ever saw was the restaurant Citizen Kane sketch, or it could have been the one where Bruce's pin gets stolen,
Oh yeah,
and then the guy just goes on like kind of murder spree, like just doing every like god awful thing possible with a pin, and just Bruce like haplessly chasing after the guy,
my pen.
and the guy just like, oh yeah, sorry, I forgot.
Or the two Geralds.
Yeah,
That's a good one too.
one that I liked in small doses was Gavin, which was again played by Bruce McCullough.
Yep.
I thought that was funny, but I mean, I felt that they kind of used him.
Yeah.
Which I mean, I think Kids in the Hall was a show that did better. I mean, there were certain characters you did want to see again, like Buddy Cole, and in my opinion, Simon and Hecubus. I really like that sketch.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, some of them, it's like, okay, I seen the Chicken Lady. This joke really wears thin pretty quickly for me, at least. And I think Gavin was another one like that for me.
Yeah, one that was like that for me was Cabbage Head. Also played.
Yeah, that was maybe good about one time.
Yeah, also played by Bruce. And, it'd be funny every once in a while. Like you said, the first time I saw it, I thought, oh, this is funny. But they just come up way too often.
I thought the Cathys were kind of funny. I mean, I don't think they were the greatest, but I mean, it seemed like it could be hit or miss, but it wasn't like a definite hate sketch where they all played like women named Kathy working in an office.
Yeah, AT and Love.
Another good. Now the more I think about this, the more I might think that Dave is probably my favorite cast member.
Okay.
Because another great sketch he was. I mean, that's assuming he writes the sketches he stars in, which I just assume. I don't know. I could be wrong.
Mm-hmm.
It was one where he's a bank robber,
Oh, yes.
and like Kevin McDonald just walking, like checking off a list, and then Dave Foley just like has this plan, and the plan is to shoot one of his own like people to show how serious they were. But just eventually just kills everybody, including himself, in the game.
Yep.
Is he the one that did the hitman who had been hired to kill himself?
I was just thinking of that one when you said that.
I think I've only heard you describe that one.
That one is great because it's so funny. Like, part of why this is so humorous is how seriously they take the material. When they're doing something like this, that's kind of a little more surreal and a little more out there, but they really hit the genre pretty well, because they come into this warehouse and Scott Thompson is the one who's hiring him, and yeah, it's Dave Foley. And he says, I hear you're the best. And he goes, yeah, I'll get the job done and everything. And he's like, I want this man dead. And he just slides a picture across the table, and it's a picture of Dave Foley. And it's so funny too, because it's like in those in those what I find funny about it is you would think that one of the jokes would be it's just a picture of him like as he's sitting right now, but they don't do that. It's like in the movies where it's like a candid shot of him. Obviously, he doesn't know they're taking a picture of him, just like kind of on the street and stuff. So he went to the trouble not to even just say it's you, but to hire a photographer to take this guy's picture clandestinely. And so he hands it to him, and he goes, "That's going to be a tough job, you know." And he's like, "Can you get it done?" And he goes, "I'm going to need an extra 50,000 or whatever." So he gives him the money. And then he goes out, and then it's basically just him fighting with himself. Like he puts a gun to his head and then grabs it with his other arm, and he wrestles himself the whole time in this warehouse on like the 15th floor. And then at the end of the sketch, he like he basically throws himself out the window, and he lands, and Scott Thompson's walking by right at that moment, and he's like, "You were supposed to wait," and then he just starts kicking him, and then police come and arrest him because he's kicking this dead guy. But yeah, it's a hilarious, and like you said, the performance is part of what makes it so good, because the physical comedy of him fighting him, against himself, mixed with the cerebral kind of surrealistic comedy, it's awesome.
Yeah, that's another fun part is Dave or Bruce McCullough would do different songs every so often.
Yeah.
Like one was just about people named Dave that he knew. One was about terriers.
Yep.
They weren't good songs. I don't think they were meant to be, but they were, just funny and just like clever wordplay and that sort of.
And, that goes back to the point that you were making about how part of the strength of this, and I mean, it seems obvious, but part of the strength of this is how good of performers they were. And that's, that's a big part of why they were so successful and why they were so good. Because they would be able to, like, not a lot of sketch comedy shows would be able to just, do a sketch where it's a guy singing, "These are the Daves I know, these are the Daves I know," and just like walking from room to room pointing out different Daves and Davids, or doing the song about terriers, or like Dave Foley's thing, like you were talking about the cancer stuff and everything, but Dave Foley's thing where he just sits and like I said, it just points out what great performers they are. This is the whole set. It's the set, and it's clearly the set of the show, and you can kind of see the audience. And he sits on a stool and says, "An open letter to the guy that I clotheslined on the bike." And he starts off just reading about how sorry he is that he clotheslined this guy as he rode by on his bicycle. And then towards the end, he's like, "Now that I'm thinking about it, we were on the sidewalk. Why are you riding your bike?" And then he just totally turns on the guy and basically says that he deserved it. And it's the strength of that performance that makes that funny. I mean, obviously the writing as well, but if you give that to a lesser performer, they're not, because there's no tools there. You're just sitting on a stool talking to the audience. You have to be a really strong performer to make that work, especially in television.
Yeah, I think that's another indication of each one kind of brought their own like sense of humor to the show. I mean, they weren't exactly alike, but there was enough overlap that they could just make a completely absurd sketch with every, performer in there, and it was just ridiculous.
Yeah,
seems like Mark McKinney almost had like a more like traditional sense of humor. Obviously Dave Foley like bent towards the absurd. Scott Thompson also was a more traditional kind of humor type guy, I would think. It's hard to pinpoint Kevin, or I think Kevin's the only one left. But yeah, but it's just like you could tell they clearly seem to have like a different sense of humor, which was helpful.
Yeah, Scott, I think if you had to pinpoint Scott, he talked, I think, a lot about the Queen. He had something for the Queen of England, and
yeah, that's true.
And homosexuality, because he was, an openly gay man, and
still is,
right. And there were a lot of, there's one with a title I can't say, but he sang this song called "Running F Word" and not that F word. The other one.
Did I ever tell you that Alex and I went to go see them like maybe 5 years ago at this point? Like they did a live tour.
Yeah, I think you mentioned something about it. Yeah.
Yeah, and that song was their closer, and it just was like, wow, it was just like the greatest thing ever.
Yeah, and it's it's basically it's a like a folk song about famous or like a gay man throughout history saving
Yeah, but I think,
people and stuff.
yeah, I don't think Scott Thompson was the first openly gay like sketch performer. I think there was one on SNL. I can't remember his name though.
Okay. Would it be
Um, it's
I
something with
think
a
I know.
J.
Yeah, I think I know who it is.
J. Jonah Jameson.
Get me pictures of Spider-Man and get me Peter Parker's phone number.
But yeah, it was like I can't remember his name. Sorry. But I mean, I like that they didn't really make it. I mean, it was just incidental. That's like it wasn't like, oh look, It wasn't like the Ellen show right before it got canceled. It was like, oh, I'm going to the store, but I'm gay. It
Yeah.
was like, oh, I'm going to the store and I'm gay, but it's not.
Yeah, exactly. It wasn't. It informed his humor in certain ways because obviously
Sure,
he
I'm
obviously
sure
he has a
that's
different perspective, but it wasn't the basis for his humor. You know.
Yeah, then well that except for like a character like Buddy Cole, who was like the completely over the top, like feminine type,
Hmm.
almost like stereotype. He basically played a stereotypical gay character, but he just like it was just like he just like took it to the next level. Like his stories were just like absurd and just ridiculous. But I mean, just like a fun character. I mean, like I said, one of the characters I always enjoy is Buddy Cole.
Yeah, and it reminds me, and I don't know if this was the basis of it or not, but it reminds me a little bit of Truman Capote, or at least stories that people would tell about Truman Capote, where at parties he would always name drop and kind of do
Yeah.
stuff like that. Obviously, he doesn't do a Truman Capote impersonation, but
I would even say that probably the Stefan character that was on SNL during the news was definitely influenced in some way by Buddy Cole.
yeah, I would agree with that for
I don't
sure.
know if that's ever been like openly acknowledged, but it would be I mean, not impossible, but very difficult to say that the person who wrote that character, which I think you said before, is John Maloney and or Bill Hader.
Yeah,
They
Mulaney
must have
and
seen Buddy.
yeah.
There you go, Mulaney.
I agree. Mulaney and Hader, yeah, they wrote that, and I don't know if they've ever talked about it or not, but yeah, I agree. That has to be at least part of the influence on it. I mean, they're different enough characters where I wouldn't call it stealing necessarily.
Oh no, I mean you could say it's an homage in a sense, but I mean the
Yeah,
subject matter is even kind of similar.
yeah, because he would, like Stefan's thing was all about going to like different clubs in New York, like gay clubs and stuff like that. And, so it's a little more focused, I guess. But Buddy Cole, he'd talk about clubs. He owned his own bar, and he would go. He talked about the gay community and everything, and it was yeah, they're very very similar because they're both long rants about those subjects.
Yeah, like almost like a raconteur's like take on a certain subject. And I don't know if this was intentional, but I always found it funny that Scott Thompson more often than not would play the straight man.
Yes. Yeah.
Like comedically speaking, he probably was more often than not played the straight man than like the wacky character playing off of them, which of course is kind of a play on the straight slashes. But I mean, I don't know if it was intentional. It just was probably a coincidence.
Yeah, and well, the thing too is that a lot of in he, the if you hear the way that he talks normally, I don't want to stereotype or anything, but he has more of an effeminate lilt to his voice, just kind of naturally. But he does a really good, like, I'm a businessman, and kind of like, I'm the dad, and when he does it, it's funny to hear him do it because it's like hearing a good impersonation of somebody. It's funny to hear him do that. So I wonder if that's part of the reason why he was the straight man in a lot of sketches, because he was just really good at making that character funny while also being delivering the straight lines, almost like
Yeah.
Leslie Nielsen type kind of.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, yeah. I mean, I mean, that's a really good comparison. Actually, I could see him in a Leslie Nielsen type movie, and he'd be great at that. I'm sure.
Yeah. One of the ones I'd be remiss if we didn't talk about this before the end of the show. One of the ones that I love is the and this is another Bruce one where he played a character that wanted to get into fights all the time.
Yeah, I don't remember his name, but I love that character. I like because Bruce is on the shorter side in real life. He played that up in the character, and Kevin McDonald was his friend who would always like follow him around, like drinking on a Slurpee or something.
Yeah, yep.
Another thing we can't gloss over is the movie they made, Brain Candy.
Yes.
It was in 1995. It might have been after the series was officially done. I'm not sure. Do you know about that, Mark?
I believe that, yes, I believe that it came out after the series was over. Because I remember I saw it in the theater, and I remember thinking, like, I really want to go see this movie. One, because I think it'll be good, but two, because I can get a Kids in the Hall fix because I can't watch it anymore because they took it off the air.
Yeah, that would make sense then. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, but yeah, it is a brilliant film, and that's one that's obviously even easier to find than the sketch comedy show. But definitely go out and look for the sketch comedy show because it is absolutely worth your time. But the movie
you can
is
find clips
great.
on YouTube and all your streaming type sites. See, the movie, I'm more of a fan of the show than the movie.
Oh yeah,
I mean, the movie has a lot of cameos, and connections to the show, obviously, but it is its own standalone type story.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what it is. I just don't. I like the absurdity of the show, which it really isn't super present in the movie. I mean, there's definitely a lot of parts like that, but it's more like a straight up, with humorous elements type thing.
Yeah. Yeah. See, the reason I like the movie, well, there's a lot in the movie that I laugh at, and if
there's definitely funny parts.
If you go and watch the movie after watching a modern comedy, you'll be. I mean, this would be an absolute hit in today's day and age because I think comedies sort of fallen in the dregs a little bit when it comes to films. You can find good comedies, if you're looking for them for sure, but a lot of the big comedies, they're not my type of humor anymore. But I like the movie. I definitely like the movie a lot, but I agree with you. I like the show a lot more. And I think one of the things that hurts the movie is that it's one story. I don't think they should have.
Yeah, I would agree.
I don't think they should have done necessarily a movie 43 like anthology film.
See, I wouldn't have minded that from them, especially if they're able to just go full out with budget and they could swear all they want. If they wanted nudity, they could have it in there.
Right.
I would not be opposed to that.
But yeah, I think that's part of the problem with it is that it's a good idea, but it stretches a little too far in certain places. And I think that's part of the problem with it.
There's great sequences, like the very opening scene with the rock star Greedo, played by Bruce McCullough.
Yes.
It's hilarious. And if you look on YouTube, the band Tool actually covered that song, and it's pretty funny.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, you should check that out after this. It's pretty good.
But yeah, the story of the film is that they create a powerful antidepressant called Gleamanex, and they are so successful that they beat penicillin. They sell.
Yeah, they cure every incident of everyone who takes it is instantly the happiest they've ever been all the time.
Yep. And they obviously something like that would sell a lot if it actually worked. And so they're the number one selling drug in the country. And yeah, I don't really want to ruin any more from there, but it's a funny film. It's definitely worth your time, but
yeah, which is funny. It's really a dark take on it too, because they basically equate perfect happiness with just misery. I mean, it's really interesting, the perspective on it.
Yeah,
and there's hilarious performances. There's big scenes that could almost be a sketch. The part. I mean, I guess in a sense you could say it's a loose group of sketches with a central kind of theme.
Yeah.
The whole part where Scott Thompson is watching the videos and takes his pill. He's like, "Oh wait, it's fine. I'm gay. That's perfectly okay."
Yep. Yeah,
that could definitely fit on the show as a sketch.
Yeah, they do structure it a little bit that way, but yeah, I think they probably would have done better with an anthology type thing with kind of an overarching story, which is sort of what the movie is, but the overarching story is, a huge part of the movie. Yeah.
Have you seen the thing they did for a CBC a few years ago, Death Comes to Town, or something? It's called something like that.
No.
I haven't seen it either. I tried to watch a little bit of the first episode. I couldn't really get into it too much, but I mean, it's I should watch it at some point.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll definitely look for it and check it out. But yeah, that is our show for tonight. Like I said, like we both said, definitely check out The Kids in the Hall. It was a tremendous show, and you can still find it, online on YouTube, different places.
Yeah, name like 5 sketches people should look up. What do you think, Mark?
Well, I would definitely. I think. Okay, so let's try to make it a little diverse, like different kinds of humor. Definitely look up Buddy Cole. Look up one of those for sure. From I think the courtroom. I couldn't think of the word courtroom. I think the courtroom one that you were talking about with Dave Foley. I think definitely look that one up. Are
we collaborating or are we each giving 5? What do you think?
Yeah, let's collaborate. Right. I want to try to get one for each person.
Gotcha. I have one word for you: gazebo.
Oh yes, absolutely, absolutely do that one.
Another good one with one of my favorites, Bruce McCullough, is the Cincinnati Kid.
Yep, that's a good one too.
So we need one more. Do you what about the Mark cab driver with the Toronto Blue Jays? That's a good one.
Yeah, that's a good one for Mark McKinney. Yeah, so he plays the. I think if you just put in Kids in the Hall cab driver, it should probably come up. But he's.
I think he actually did promos for like the MTV Movie or Music Awards with that character at one point. I could be wrong, but I think.
Yeah, I think you're right. Oh, and also do the Hitman one. Look that one up.
Yeah.
Because that is definitely a good one, and I think that will give you a good sense of the show. And if you want to see more, if you don't like any of that, then I guess
go fuck yourself.
Yeah, I guess I'm sorry that you don't like comedy.
Delete this episode,
right? But
go watch chapter 43 or whatever the fuck it's called. You'll probably like that. It's silly.
The studio should have filed for chapter 11 after that, huh? Oh, but yeah, that is our show for today. As always, you can find us, Massive Late Fee, on Facebook, on Twitter, on Bandcamp for our audio commentaries. We're going to get to another audio commentary soon. I've been super busy with all the stuff that we're doing, but we're definitely doing another audio commentary soon. I got an email about our audio commentaries, Mike. I forgot to tell you. I got an email. I got an email that said, why hasn't there been an audio commentary in a while? So,
really?
Yeah. So we'll definitely.
I didn't think anybody was listening to those.
So we'll definitely get back to that pretty soon. And Patreon, if you want to throw us a buck, we always appreciate that. And tell a friend. Oh, and we don't say this enough. We really should, but rate and review on iTunes. That helps us a lot on iTunes. So if you want to throw us a review, you can give us however many stars you think we deserve. I'm not going to beg for 5-star reviews. So if you're waiting for that, you can go fuck yourself. But, no.
Yeah, pretty much the theme of the show is go fuck yourself if you don't like what we're doing.
But yeah, if you want to give a 1-star review,
go to whatever the fucking show's called. The one with the crime.
Brew
Serial.
Crime?
Go listen to Serial. I would listen to Brew Crime. That sounds interesting, actually.
Yeah, go listen to Serial if you don't like this. If you don't like what we're doing here, just get the fuck out of here and go.
Go write not a letter. How will that help?
Yeah, exactly. Go listen to Serial, write Ad Not a Letter, and then be able to say at the cocktail party with your friends like, oh yeah, I listened to Serial, and I was in contact with Ad. I tried to give Adnan a conjugal visit.
We all know that MailChimp thing is racist anyways. Why would you support that?
Exactly. So anyway, if you don't like us, go find them. That's more what you're looking for. But if you like us,
and go fuck up.
Yeah, go listen to Brew Crime and listen to Decomposition and the Faves of Our Lives. That's another good one too. Oh, and Boar Meets World. Boar Meets World's another one that's on our network that we just signed recently and they go through the '90s TGIF TV show Boy Meets World. Mike, you should listen to them too. Their humor is a lot like ours. I wish that we could guest on their show, but I feel like we would interrupt the chemistry between the two of them that are on the show.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
But they are hilarious. They're very dry, sarcastic. They're not like big out there. It's not like, hey, old boy, they're very sarcastic and like slyly funny. And it's a great show. I'm almost caught up from their.
Some people would say we're too sly for the audience if they don't get through.
Right.
You know who that boy is up against in that show? The world.
That's right. So, they got a bad review from someone named Cherry Bonbon, who's some fucking loser out there trying to tear people down. But besides that, good reviews all around, and I recommend them. So definitely check out Boar Meets World and check out all our
Don't
other
forget
great podcasts.
our friend Nick's podcast, whose title I will butcher very badly. How I Died Today.
How Will I Die?
How will I die?
Yep. How will I die? ? Check him
Skeptical
out.
Skeptics.
Yep, Skeptical Skeptics are the best, and we'll be on their show coming up, and we'll link them below. We'll link that episode below. I think I'll have time to do that. So definitely check all that out.
We just list podcasts for like 30 minutes if we wanted to.
Yeah, exactly. But at one point I'll go through the list of everyone that's on there and give some thoughts. Maybe we should do an episode just on the podcasts on our network.
Probably.
But anyway, that is our show for today. Thank you for listening, and we will see you next week. Bye.
MySpace.com/massive late fee.